talking behind screens, I'm also used to not having to maneuver. Actually, we've always just got a mouse with us, that's all it takes. But this time I think it's a little tougher with multiple things to go through. So thanks for that really sweet introduction, Liz. I really appreciate that. Always go straight to the heart. Let's see, it was pointed out earlier that folks don't know what a city manager does. And so probably worth just for a minute noting that I'm one of the city council's, I think it's three employees, 4 employees. Okay, there's the city manager,
okay,
city attorney,
three
the city clerk, and now via contract we have the city auditor. But those are the only 4 employees that the city council actually hires. And by and large, our city workforce of about 1,000 employees, by and large, the lion's share of those really report out through the city manager. So those are my folks, whether it's police officers, firefighters, public works, utility workers, rec parks, recreation, and the like. Those departments are all operated under the responsibility of the city manager. So you might say it's the one-stop shop for responsibility, or the buck stops with city manager when it comes to the operations of the city. And so I do what I can as much as humanly possible to ride herd on that operation, while also ensuring that that organization of 1,000 or so people are responsive to the priorities of the community as communicated by the city council. And so that can be a bit of a trick, and so it's often referred to as the city manager being the rubber band between the organization, the departments, and the city council. So sometimes it's stretched more than others. But in general, really do my best, and I've got a team that keeps the organization responsive to the community and reflective of the priorities, again, as communicated by the city council. So what I've got for you today is a bit of I'll do this pretty quick, an overview of the things we're working on. Things that are, we like to say the city is a bit like an iceberg, where what's visible is just a small portion of what's actually going on in the organization. Whether it's Baylands Golf Links is one of our operations, or the folks who are repairing potholes or the like, being others that you can see but you might not necessarily think about. So we'll talk about some of the things that are above the waterline here. All right, and so what I'm going to do, again, I'll do this fairly quickly, so bear with me, and I really want to provide a lot of time for discussion and use this morning, this little segment, as an opportunity or a foundation for conversation. I know there was quite a bit of discussion of things like campaign finance reform, which isn't really a city operation, but perhaps we could talk about how that fits in priorities and how the work of the city gets done. So, quick review of things that we were able to accomplish last year, and while it was obviously a pandemic year, I'm just going to provide a few examples of the more visible works by the city. One being our public safety building just off California Avenue, that's well under construction now at this point, really above ground, so to speak, where for several months it was working underground. That's really proceeding, will be completed next, let's see, actually 23-24 for that building. Now open our bike bridge. Thank you. We actually get we don't, believe it or not, we don't get a lot of compliments with the city, but this is one project that has received quite a few compliments. And what former Mayor Liz Ness once called the mythical bike bridge, because I think in Palo Alto, anything worth doing is worth taking 20 years to get done. And so this one is now done and open, so we're really proud of it. We have our Junior Museum and Zoo as well, now open, and hopefully you've had the opportunity to come and visit. In fact, I and Councilmember Cormack will probably need to leave after this segment for the grand opening, the actual call it endemic phase opening, while it's been a soft opening to this point, to really celebrate this new resource for the community. Also, a part of our celebration today will be the Rinconada Park Playground that's now also open. and a really interesting art piece. It's a model, apparently a scale model of the solar system that's also at Rinconada Park. So again, we'll be heading out to, and hopefully after today's meeting you can come by and see what's happening out at Rinconada Park. And then just to finish, as we refer to, excuse me, the Charleston Arrastradero project. And as I talk to folks around the community, it's either you love it or you hate it. But either way, it's almost done. And for those who have had to endure the construction in various phases over the last several years, I know it's been a bit of a challenge. But again, almost done. One of the notable components of this project is a new traffic signal that's going in at Charleston and Lewis Montrose, which will be really important as PAUSD does some campus shifts using Greendale campus, and we expect to see quite a few bicyclists and students walking in that area. So with that, just again, a few examples of some of the more visible things that the city's been involved with over the past year. So now let's move forward to 2022. So the City Council's adopted 4 priorities for the year, and I'll go through them again quickly in turn. One of them is economic recovery and transition. That clearly economic recovery is high on everyone's priority list. As we know, businesses as well as community in general has really struggled through the pandemic. But the note about transition is perhaps equally important, recognizing that previous to the pandemic, Palo Alto relied on a very large commuter population that came into town each day. We often said that the daytime population in Palo Alto is twice its nighttime population. And that's changed some with working from home, remote work, and some of the changes that have happened in our economy. So the graphic here is really just acknowledging the ups and downs, do it this way, the ups and downs of the pandemic, being on case counts over the last a couple of years, and as we are still seeing a bit of a spike or an increase in cases here in Santa Clara County. There are a number of initiatives that the city's pursuing related to economic recovery and transition, ranging from just making it through the pandemic, as we've been focused on both providing information to the community and resources for pandemic support, as well as now working with our budget. It is a activity I'll speak to a little more, but our budget really reflecting some improvement in the economy and restoration of some services where we can. Ballot measures being a part of the long-term strategy related to our economic and fiscal sustainability, as well as, again, as we speak to various services that are being provided by the city, and some focused efforts both downtown and California Avenue. Another discussion, somewhat polarized perspectives on open streets, closed streets, and what can and should be done for businesses around town. Next, and just also to put that in a bit of a context, that we have our short-term actions ongoing, our budget deliberations, as well as a longer-term discussion as it relates to the ballot measures, and the need for us to review and perhaps reposition our funding for our ability to provide services that address community priorities, including public safety staffing, obviously fire and police, as well as a number of additional priorities that we know we have not been able to fund sufficiently, such as affordable housing, services for unhoused residents, our number of parks, recreation programs, and transportation, most notably train crossings, as ongoing issues that will take longer term investment. Then coming back to our ongoing discussions for the budget, this is May, and that makes it budget season each fiscal year. Our fiscal year begins on July 1st, runs until June 30th of each year, and part of the city manager's responsibility is to bring forward a recommended budget that is then reviewed and has been reviewed by the city council's finance committee, and will be going to the full city council for further discussion and approval in the month of June. And not perhaps too much of a surprise, and this is pretty much a high-level description of how our general funds are broken out into a variety of categories of expenditures. Perhaps notable in the proposed budget that we have pending this year is that we are restoring a number of services, and that it will depend somewhat on the continued economic recovery or the approval of one or two ballot measures that are being considered for bringing forward in front of the voters this November. That budget discussion, as noted, is ongoing. It has been ongoing with our Finance Committee, and later this month, the Finance Committee will report out its recommendations for any changes to the proposed budget that they dive through. It's a 1,000-page document, give or take, that the committee has gone through over the last week, and at the end of the month, there will be some further discussion at probably a higher level, but again, noting where the City Council may want to make some changes before actually adopting it, which is required by charter to occur before the end of June. And then, as noted, the two ballot measures that are under discussion. First is an affirmation of what has been and continues to be a transfer of the from the natural gas utility to the general fund of up to 18%. Over the last few years, there has been a legal challenge to that transfer following Proposition 218 as voters subsequent, while this transfer has been in place for decades, that the subsequent state requirements have caused that to now be challenged. Now the funds are continuing to be transferred or collected from the gas utility, but they've been placed in a reserve. And so the city has not been spending those funds for the last several years. And so that may be an item that comes back to the voters. The second item being establishment of a business tax. That business tax could provide substantial new revenues that could be used to pursue the priorities as was mentioned earlier. The City Council has really gotten now to the point of being pretty specific in the concepts of the business tax, a square footage based tax, where the first 5,000 square feet of a business is exempt, and then it ramps up from there at a rate of between 10 and 12 cents per square foot per month is the rate that's been discussed. So now it's getting real in terms of the level of engagement that businesses have now that they know what the financial implications would be for them, and so you're starting to see more discussion of that. And then let me just proceed to other priorities of the council. It's our sustainability and climate action plan. The City Council is really now, I'd say, squarely in the driver's seat, quite frankly, with our sustainability and climate action plan ad hoc committee. Councilmember Cormack being one of 3 city council members that are really taking deep dives in a variety of areas. I won't go through these, but that reflect our continuing priority to address climate change and really looking at how best to scale what have been perhaps pilot programs and small scale programs into a community-wide effort. Another priority of the City Council continues as housing, and we have a range of issues or a range of initiatives underway. The discussion of ordinances and how housing and zoning rules apply to proposed housing projects is one that has taken quite a bit of time from the City Council and is also matched with a number of specific projects and policies that have been in development, are in place, and are being built up. Then finally, just note the 4th priority as identified by the City Council this year is community health and safety. And health and safety are pretty wide-ranging series of programs and initiatives. Just note everything ranging from our citywide tree ordinance that will be discussed by the City Council in the next few weeks to our ongoing work on public safety around police funding and police services, and all the way to wellness and mental health support provided by the city. And I would just note, and this is a little hard to read in the blue box there a series of events that today being a good example, as much as everyone loves to get back in person. We have, ranging from Mayfest. Unfortunately, I mentioned I was at my son's graduation last week, so missed the Mayfest parade, but all reports were that it was a great success. And again, if you have the opportunity to join us over at Rinconada Park later today, and a whole series coming up. So with that, I think I will stop and just note that we've had quite a bit of activity in Palo Alto over the last year, despite what might have felt like a continued shelter in place. And we really do look forward to continuing to work on both the items on the list and perhaps some things that aren't on the list that League of Women Voters might want to put on the council's docket and city's docket over the year. And look forward to your discussion and how we might assist. So with that, Liz, can I turn it back to you?